There's a pandemic going on, and there's a lot of comedians who can't tour right now. And that's where I take advantage of that situation. I make them zoom into my show. And we got a dandy today. This guy's very popular. You've seen him all over Comedy Central. He's done all kinds of roasts, and he's got his own Sirius XM radio show, does tons of podcasts. He's a two-time best-selling author, New York Times bestseller list. TV shows, movies, you name it, this guy's done it. You'll know who I'm talking about. Let's enjoy this interview with Jim Norton. Oh, take another look and tell me that. I want to go back in time for a second. I doubt you will remember this, but we actually worked together maybe one weekend. It was before either one of us were doing anything.
Oh, wow.
In Raleigh, North Carolina. There was a club called Good Nights.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. And there was another one that was an offshoot of Good Nights that lasted maybe a year called Good Nights North or Good Nights 2. And it didn't do well. It was like way too big,
Right.
And it was not a lot of people knew about it. You and I were there. I think I was the MC, and maybe you were the feature. I remember working with you because I remember sitting in the back of the room and just laughing my head off and being pissed off that not more people were there, not because of you or me, but because of the situation. Yeah.
What was it? But it wasn't, because I remember doing Good. I've done that so many times, that gig, but I remember it's the one time I actually did a weekend with Richard Jeni. It's got to be 1996. I'm not sure when you started, but maybe 99 or 2000. It was in the late 90s, early 2000s. And Richard brought his own act. Mm-hmm. And I remember they kicked me off the show because but they let me, I think, host for him. Yeah. Just so Richard wanted me not to lose the work. The club screwed up the booking me for the weekend. So I don't know if that wasn't the weekend. It was another.
I don't think it was. No, it couldn't have been Richard Jeni. I don't think he would have done this other room because it wasn't like as established as the main Good Nights room. But here's what I remember from that. I had to take a shit before the show. And I always hate it when we don't have our own green room, where we have to share a bathroom with other people. Yes. Yep. And especially when you have to shit. Or pissing's just as bad, too, because they can see you at the stall. But anyway, I was in there. I shut the door. And some guy came in there, and I guess he recognized my shoes. And then, like, when I got on stage, he said, "Hey, that was the guy that was shitting." And I remember, like, me telling you that story and just kind of laughing at that, like, that's the worst. And yeah, so it's weird how you remember tiny little nuggets of crap literally crap from a long time ago,
Yes, and it's funny you're saying that, and you're triggering a memory of a shit story I had. Which was because when the part that is the worst is when you don't have your own bathroom. You want a green room bathroom. And the Punchline in San Francisco, it's a small club. And I was there, and it was probably, again, early 2003 or late 2002. And I was very sick. I had food poisoning. I hadn't slept in 3 days, or I was just sick. And I was vomiting and I was shitting. And having to run in and out of the bathroom of a 150-seat club and shit while the host is on in between me and the feature. It really is one of the unsung disasters. Like, nobody in show business talks about how awful it is to have to shit right before you go on. It's a terrible feeling.
Yeah, I mean, because it's in our heads, that moment happened where a guy recognized the comedian was actually shitting, and that's his heckle. Now of course we all shit, but that's not what I wanted to talk about on stage. And now he's got me there, and it pissed me off. But I always hate that. But for whatever reason, having to shit right before a set always kind of happens. And it happens more than people think. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it goes away if you don't have time to actually let it out, like right before you get up there. I think the adrenaline kicks in, and it pushes it back inside for a while.
Yes, that will happen. The adrenaline will. If I'm doing a show where it's just, if I'm doing like a theater show where it's like an opening act and me, I know what they do, where they close with. A lot of times I'll always dump out before. Like, your body just, like, I guess that's my panic. Your body's just like, just fucking empties everything that can get rid of. So it helps to have. But I went through a weird thing where I was afraid I was going to pass out on stage. And I kept feeling like I had to puke when I was on stage. So I actually would have a bucket set up off stage. I never needed it, but it was a psychological thing where I used to have to hold on to the stool because I think I was maybe talking too fast and running out of air, but I was so scared I was going to pass out. And I finally one day just went, you fucking pussy, shut up and just fucking faint. And I just said, just do it, you fuck. I was so angry at my cowardice. And then it just kind of went away. I just kept talking through it. And I'm like, if I pass out, then I'm going to fucking fall and just bang my head. Wow. And then eventually, whatever psychological thing, I don't know if it was fear or if it was like, again, just my talking pattern. But I was going through this thing where I would have to hold on to the stool because I was feeling like I was about to black out and collapse.
Wow. So have you always been a little anxious about performing? I mean, is that a performance thing or is that like you walk around with that kind of thing?
Performance, I think. I've always kind of had that. It goes away. Like, and you know how it is. I mean, you know how to manage it and how to take it and you recognize it for what it is. Like, hey, it's just somebody tapping me on the shoulder. It's not, it doesn't mean anything. It's just, it's a tap on the shoulder. It's a tap on the shoulder. It's there. No one knows it's there but me. Yeah. No one can see it or sense it or smell it but me. Yeah. So that helps kind of, but you know, the fear of not remembering shit. I don't know if you go through that, but the fear of not, like even doing TV sets, I would always have to bullet point, even if I knew the material. Mm-hmm. Because there was this terror that I was going to just go blank and forget everything I had written. Yes,
and that my TV tapings as well. Sometimes they'll have a teleprompter. They're like, "Hey, we got a teleprompter. You want to use the prompter?" And I'm like, "Well, that's just going to throw me off. I'm not going to sit there and read my comedy word for word, but I will use it for bullet points." So I'm not actually looking at a piece of paper or whatever, or at least a timer so it counts down. I want to know where I'm at in the set. If it's like a TV thing, you've got 7 minutes. If you can just pop up there, 30 seconds left. I'll know how to wrap it up. But yeah, it happened to me in Tampa where I actually forgot. I'm a storyteller mostly. I've got some set up punch things here and there, but my bread and butter is kind of like stories, and then. The good thing about stories is when you tell them over and over and over again, it's easy to remember. A joke I think might be easier because it's set up punch, but jokes are longer. There's little nuances in there, and you forget if you don't do it every time. And I must have forgotten several things in Tampa. And I tell people, I forgot something if I just in the middle of the set go, yeah, but man, it's like, it's crazy,
Yeah. You guys are a good crowd. You guys are great. Like whenever I tell them they're great, they're not. You fucking, I'm forgetting. You're average. I'm forgetting that. But I'm like, you guys are great. Like just taking a sip and you're like, I'm panicking because I have nothing left to say to these fucking people.
Yeah. I'll start doing the thing where I go, any questions? I just start asking 4 questions and then hopefully someone who's seen me before will, jog my memory with a bit. But it happened because if you don't do it in 4 months, that shit's going to happen. Do you know when your next gig is?
I have, the next stuff, everything's been pushed back. I think we're looking at Boston at the end of September and a casino in Connecticut. They were back to back. It was one night in Boston and one night in the casino. So we're going to see what the law allows if people can come. Yeah. I mean, I'll still do the shows. I had to move Chicago to next year because they're going to have very limited seating, so I would lose money going. Right. Like, I don't need to make a lot of money, but I don't want to lose money because of the traveling and the hotels and stuff. I would want to, making like losing money. Sure. So a couple of the gigs had to be pushed back to next year just until they can seat enough people. Yeah. Because what my agent said, it's going to be upside down, meaning there's just not going to be enough tickets. Mm-hmm. It's a small room. I remember one time we were doing, before Tough Crowd. There was a show Colin did called The Colin Quinn Show. Uh-huh. And it was live on NBC. It was on the SNL stage. And he only did 3 episodes. And we did something called The Town Hall, which eventually became Tough Crowd. It was 5 comedians sitting there. And we were all just kind of sitting there on steps doing a bit to camera. Like it was supposed to be casual. Mm-hmm. And I remember Rosie was on one. Like it was right after she came out. It was just to kind of put it. It was, I guess, middle of 2002, some point. And I was sitting next to Patrice and we had done our bit. I'd done my bit. and he was doing his, and I knew him well enough from watching him, and I'm like, I'm like, this asshole is forgetting his joke. I was so happy.
Right? If you want to watch the whole version, the entire episode, click on this little square right here. Or if you just want to subscribe and watch them later, click on that little bubble right there. And thank you.